you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Erin as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
By now, most New Year's resolutions have quietly fallen apart. And if yours did too, it's not because you failed, it's because different goals require different kinds of support. And most of us were never taught how to tell the difference. Today, I am with my super co host, Dr. Erin Hurley, and we're talking about how to discern what your goals truly need, how to stop blaming yourself when things stall, and how to accept the right kind of support so you can move forward without burning yourself out. So let's get straight to it, Erin. I'm going to ask you a question so we can get this is such an interesting topic. I'm looking forward to all your answers.
Yeah, I've been on this topic nonstop for probably 3 weeks with my one-on-one and group coaching clients, and it's creating such momentum in them, kickstarting the year when we better understand the different pieces to a goal because they aren't to be treated the same. Can't wait to dive in.
Yes, and I know that we're experts at beating ourselves up and all those obstacles that get in the way. So this information and distinctions will make a difference. Can't wait. So here's the first question. How can someone tell whether they're dealing with a habit goal or a project goal?
I learned a lot about this from the planner system, the full focus planner system, when I became a coach for implementing this amazing, well thought out, research based planner. And so the difference is a habit goal is something like I want to go to the gym or work out every day. So that's a habit goal. A project goal is I want to declutter my garage. And then those, as you can see, those take kind of two different pathways. And they also take two different implementation strategies. And when we treat them the same, with the same energy, with the same resources, the same strategies, it's common that they're going to fall by the wayside. And so I can't wait to unpack and further delineate the ways that we can be more successful and also raise your awareness on what goal are you talking about, and then use the right strategies for that type of goal in order to be most successful.
This is so interesting because and I think especially us professional women that we just go, we're busy, we're always wanting to do all the things, and we frequently write in the same to-do list a habit goal and a gigantic project goal. And it doesn't sound, based on what you're saying, that it's necessarily about breaking down the big projects into small parts, but really kind of defining them differently. And I imagine that it's a kind of almost a different part of our brain or different strategies to follow. I would love to get more details on that.
Right. I was just writing some notes here. Some clarity that I received by listening to a book called Reset by Daniel Heath, really helpful in breaking through barriers that are keeping us stuck and getting through project goals is primarily what he talked about. And things like he talks about a burst method. So when I'm coaching a new client, I'm going to encourage them to meet with me weekly or close to that, because we need a big, powerful burst of energy in order for them to see some progress right away and use that progress to feed into their motivation. And so using leverage, asking for more help. So like if I'm going to tackle the garage and get it clear, like I was talking about with a project goal, if I can get my husband and my kids to pitch in, if I can pay someone to help take away the clutter, if I can connect with somebody who maybe does estate sales and say, okay, I'm going to take a week off of work, or I'm going to take this entire weekend and plow through this, you're going to get so much done versus what's called the drip method, where you do I'm going to do 10 minutes a day. They can both be successful, but when you get the momentum from that big burst of energy put into this, you can make so much progress. It really helps you get things moving, and it's easier to keep it moving once it's like inertia, right? The power of get that big boulder moving with a lot of energy, and once it's rolling down the hill, it's going to keep rolling easier than when you first had to start it. So there's different dynamics that go behind having a successful project goal. And now let's unpack a habit goal. So with the project goal, you might want to get as much visual progress as possible to everybody on the team to keep it going. With a habit goal, I use some opposite ideas where just do something to move you in the right direction. So in that one, the drip method, where you have a little bit every day. If my goal is to work out or move my body every day, then that's just do it and then have a visual. So like I was showing Joanne, this is my very unsophisticated, for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, I have a Post-it note that's sitting on my desk and it's keeping track of actions that I'm taking. Totally basic. You have a Post-it and a pen, you can track this habit. And so I'm putting a hashtag every time I do that action, and I'm supposed to be doing it 10 to 20 times a day for this action. I do a hash mark and I'm keeping up with it in real time. And so now I can see my progress. It's very visual. It's simple. It doesn't take me time. Other ones, I might create a spreadsheet. So I'm using completely different strategies. I might have accountability, texting a friend, hey, I reached my goal of making it to the gym 7 days this week, or every day, hey, I made it to the gym. For me, I'm documenting my gym visits on my phone, doing a quick video of here I am hitting the weights, here I am on the treadmill. As little as it is, here I am on a walk, that's progress. And then I can go back at my photos and I can say, did I capture a visit to the gym or exercising, moving my body every day this week? And was I successful? Does that help share some of the ways of thinking about these two types of goals in a way that helps delineate the big differences between the two of them?
Yes, my brain is spinning, and it's so interesting because we work on both things, and in coaching and even in my psychiatry work, this is a constant conversation because we all have goals and outcomes and the little things and the big things and what we call frogs, right? Like those things that are really big that might give us anxiety or we have some kind of emotional resistance. And how interesting to have language to differentiate them, and then that way we are I think it allows us to be more compassionate. I'm thinking of a friend of mine who is going through a divorce, and for those of you who've gone through that, hopefully not having gone through it in a difficult manner, there's a million steps, and these are not, even though the actual task might be, oh, print this and fill out this form and get this information, it's so emotionally draining. And that's kind of the other thing that I'm thinking of, that a lot of the project goals also have an emotion attached to it, I would imagine, right? Not to make it negative about divorce. That was me. Maybe a better example is what you're saying, because I just went through literally like the deepest house cleaning I've been through. And I had all those things that you had. Like I had help, I engaged people, I paid, I blocked the time, because that's the other thing. Like, this is not something that you could just randomly, like, oh, I'm gonna go clean the garage. Like, it doesn't. Some people, I guess, have that kind of
work.
burst, but
Yeah.
it's usual. And then the person who was helping me, like, of course, I wanted to be like, okay, I'm done. Like, that's enough. I'll see you again in 3 months. And she used the words that you just used. She says, she was like such a great cheerleader. She was like, you're doing great. Let's keep the momentum while you're in the emotion. And we're almost done with the whole house, and it has taken a lot of time and effort, versus I have it in my daily routine to journal. I have it in my daily routine to move my body somehow, try to go to bed around the same time. Those I've worked through in mini steps, right? Like the drip. I like that.
Yeah. And I'm going to bring up the language of discernment, which we just had one of our episodes on discernment, because if we are not discerning, the difference between this is a habit goal versus this is a project goal. If we're not discerning about the extra, as you were talking about, emotional energy it can take. Women physicians are so good at minimizing the emotional baggage we carry around based on what was your patient load last week, what's going on in your family, and recognizing the extra work you're putting on yourself to develop a new habit. Your brain wants to be lazy. It wants to revert back to old habits, even if they're not serving you. So you're going to have to overcome that resistance, and it takes energy. And when we can discern and better match, what do I specifically need for this goal, and take out what's not going to help you and put in what is, and learning if you've paused to learn from past habit or past goals that have either been successful or not, and ask yourself what was behind the success and failure, then that can allow us to be so much more discerning, so we put the right amount of energy into the right type of goal in order to be more successful.
Yeah, so smart. I like that. And let me ask you this different question, Erin. Why do women physicians tend to blame themselves when goals fall apart?
Oh gosh, the blame is so common, or the guilt is such a common emotion. And we're taught to be independent. We're taught to be just plow through, just do it. And oftentimes not taught about grace, which Joanne and I do our best to encourage you to have grace for yourself. And there's a neuroscience behind it, because if you don't give yourself grace, you're going to be sabotaging your next efforts versus, can I get curious and unpack, why did this not succeed this time? And then you go, oh, you know what? I had 6 curveballs thrown at me last week that I wasn't expecting. And then you can get to that, of course I didn't succeed. And that will take away the negative energy that's just going to drain you from being able to go at it again. And you might just throw your hands up and say, I'm done. I can't do this. Instead of going, let's get into problem solving and curiosity mode and get more curious with yourself. As Joanne was talking about, a journaling prompt, it can help you understand what was going on at that time. Even one line a day can help you get clarity to what was going on and help you better understand what's in the mindset that might be behind not succeeding. Even there was a time I was working with a clinic and trying to help them implement strategies. And there was one key person who was very invested in the success. And there was another key leader that was just resistant to everything I tried to implement, pushback, defensive, dragging heels. Just, it was such a heavy load. They were pulling in the opposite direction. I got almost zero traction, not because we couldn't make it, but because the energy that was being put in the opposite direction could not be overcome in order for us to move forward on any goals, whether it was habit goals or project goals. So really looking at who is on the team, and are they showing up as a star team member, which means they're independent, they're problem solving, and I'm this is a little bit tangential to this conversation, but it's important because you might have had all the right moves, but maybe it's your spouse who wasn't invested and who was derailing your effort. So looking at your environment, the people, the location, all of those things, they might have been behind your lack of success. It might have had nothing to do with you. So when you step back and really unpack it, you might be able to see some of those reasons, and then you can overcome it.
Yeah, so true. And I'm thinking here of when I'm coaching the women physicians I coach, and I ask all these questions, and I always say, remember, this is for awareness. And we're going to look at the answers with compassion, not judgment, because we're experts at beating ourselves up, and then knowing that these are the things that keep us in that burnout loop, or right, like the comparison that's not in our favor, and the perfectionism that goes against us, and knowing that, right, like we don't want to fall on those traps. And I think, again, going back to what you were saying earlier, that discernment of what's my ultimate outcome, like what am I trying to achieve, and how one can feed the other as well, in knowing, okay, this is a small step that I need to do on a regular basis that will support and serve this outcome. And then these are the bigger projects that I need to divide and conquer and put in my calendar, and not fall into the our doctor programming, like we talk so much about, like, no, I can do everything all at once, and no, I don't need help, and please listen to us. That's what we're here. And we raise our hands too. I'm like, yes, I need to apply this to myself too. So this is so important. And talking about that, what can our listeners do this week even to get back on track?
Two big thoughts I have on that. The first one is get the support you need when you're trying to DIY things. And I'm going to give a very concrete example of this. My daughter and her boyfriend live in New York City. They have zero space and too much stuff. So it's been on their radar to get a storage bed where the mattress actually lifts up. They removed the door so they have more space behind the doorway, and it's leaning against the wall. So they wanted to get this bed where the door from the entryway or the bedroom door can go under the bed instead of leaning against a wall. They can store stuff under the bed and free up some space. So my daughter had the bed all figured out, and she wanted her boyfriend to put it together. Well, the bed comes from IKEA, so it's not going to be easy. So this has been on their radar. The door's been against the wall for months. When she was home at Christmas, her fill-in grandma, my friend Marty, was like, why don't you just pay to have someone do it? It sounds like that's a big job, and your boyfriend probably doesn't want to mess it up because you're quite the perfectionist. What if I give you money for Christmas that will not just, be towards the bed, but for paying to have it put together? So in this very short period of time, she was open to listening to advice from somebody else who's frugal with money, but realized this is an impasse. And she wanted my daughter to have the bed she'd given her money for in October, but it wasn't happening because there was a barrier. And it was, again, the boyfriend not wanting to put it together, doing it wrong, taking time, not knowing if he had the capacity. So she was given a gift for Christmas. Right after she got home after the holidays, the bed arrived. Then she got the helper to put it together. Problem solved. And so this demonstrates, number one, sometimes paying for help is helpful. And also, who do you need to take advice from? Who do you need to ask for? Getting outside who you've already tried. Me and her have talked back and forth, and we didn't get to that conclusion. But the way that my friend provided that input and gave the money to solve that piece fixed the problem so quickly. And that's where Joanne and I talk about what we do for clients. A lot of our coaching services cost something. And when we can get somebody unstuck in weeks instead of them doing it DIY in months or years or decades, what's the cost of not doing that? So for my daughter, she lost several months of getting this problem solved, and money fixed it for her. Totally game changer. And now she's enjoying the benefit as she moves forward. So that's one piece to really understand. Who should you be asking for advice? Are they giving you advice that's supportive? And then also, who's in your community that can hold you accountable? So Joanne shared an example earlier about the person helping her organize and go, you know what? I think we can push a little further. When I worked with my personal trainer, I'd never pushed myself so hard because I could lean on him to do it for me. And even knowing what you need for accountability. Some people are awesome at their own accountability. I have a physician who showed up to my very first breakup with pajama charting workshop years ago. That hour and a half fixed her charting problem. She didn't need any more support from me. For other people, they needed my 4-week course that followed that. And for other people, they're still working with me to help so I can be their accountability partner. So knowing, there's a book called The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, and she helps you unpack. There's 4 different types. And the main 2 that I think of are, do you do well with internal accountability? You put your mind to it and you're going to follow through. You need nobody else. Or do you do better with external accountability? So I see this with many of the women who are in my group program or my one-on-one. They do amazingly well when they've got me and the community that I've built to hold them accountable, to role model, to cheer them on when they're struggling. And they do very poorly when trying to do the DIY without the right support and community. So those would be the 2 biggest areas that I would recommend that you look at if you're struggling to meet those goals, whether it's a habit goal or a project goal in order to be more successful without blaming yourself, but better understanding the different dynamics needed to help you succeed.
This is so good. Yeah, I'm thinking, like we've talked before about our success formula. Like if you think of something that you've done before that you feel proud of, that was big and you conquered, and then think of what were the steps, what were the ingredients, what's the recipe, so that you can repeat it. And thinking back on mine, for some things I am very internally motivated and I just go, and some other things I definitely need the external motivation. So these are great questions that to ask ourselves, going back to our first question. When you're thinking about your big outcomes, a great big question is this a habit goal or is this a project goal? And then plan accordingly, and then get that support as well, or in your own planning, depending how it is, with a lot of compassion, as we always say. This has been great. Hopefully you found it just as valuable. And we talking about asking for what we need. We would love to ask you for a favor. If you haven't yet, please go to, if you're listening in Apple Podcasts, you can go to the show, scroll down, and then give us a rating in the stars, or share your words in a review. That's what gets us in front of more people. And if you're watching in YouTube, please subscribe and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear more from you. And with this, please stay tuned, because our next episode is coming right up.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.